Hi guys, welcome to our lecture on medical and biological physics. We continue our lecture staying home because the front door is better than any face mask. Now today's lecture we carry on learning the processes in human body in terms of electricity. We'll cope with three aspects of relation between electricity and human organism. And the first aspect is about electric processes which occur inherently in human body. And the second, it's about electrical diagnostics methods. Third one, it's about electric treatment, electric physiotherapy treatment methods. The word of electricity usually evokes a man-made technology because it's closely associated with amplifiers, with computers, with TV. However, the vast majority of the vital processes within human body are electrical. But unfortunately, electrical processes couldn't be detected by our unaided senses. We understand surrounding processes with our sense of sight and sense of hearing. Unfortunately, the function of these senses are limited because our sense of hearing, it belongs to a range of 20 Hz and 20 kHz. We can hear only sounds between this range, between 20 Hz and 20 kHz. But what about the sense of sight? It allows us to visualize, and also in limiting range, which is changed between 400 and 700 nanometers. Below and above, it couldn't be detected by our senses. And what about the crucial electric signals? Also, they can't be detected by our senses. We need guidance of this man-made technology like different tools, facilities, equipments. In our today's lecture, we try to learn this is electrical processes which is produced by different organs, different tissues. If you remember in our previous lesson, in our last lecture, we try to analyze structure of cells and processes within cell membrane, also organelles, in terms of electric potential. It was about intercellular medium of our body, but today we try to build electric structure of extracellular medium like different organs, tissues. And the term of structure must be used a very broad sense, not limited it to visible details of biological structure. In fact, it can be definite as distribution of different particular properties, physical parameters like temperature, concentration, pressure, and electrical structure of this human organism can be taken in terms of scalar quantity like potential difference. This exists in all levels of biological organization like hierarchic system, fully corresponding to all classification in biology, but governing by particular laws of physics. In demonstrated picture, different biological organization like hierarchic system is depicted. On the left side, on the right side, this is physical laws which is used in order to understand, analyze electrical structure of the given organizations and based on different laws. Starting from atomic and molecular structure of the given hierarchic system, which is analyzed, which is examined by wave and quantum mechanics based on Schrödinger equation. This is Schrödinger equation. Allows us to determine electrical parameters of the given system at atomic level using energy of chemical bond and molecular interaction. The second stage it's about supramolecular structure, considering like membrane structure, which comprises different charged particles like fixed charge, double electrical layer, and also dipole. Dipole, what does dipole mean? Dipole is a system of two charge same in value but different in size. We mean two unlike charge. One of them is positive, other one is negative. But this is charged particles couldn't freely move. This is a system of two charge which separated by distance. This is an external field. It can rotate easily. This is system of this charge, which is termed like dipole. And here membrane also is represented in terms of fixed charge as well dipoles. And the behavior and electric structure of the given system is analyzed by statistical thermodynamics based on Poisson-Boltzmann equation. And the next stage, it's about cell structure, cell organization of hierarchic system. It was taken by us in our last lesson, like Nernst distribution. And if you remember, it was about the extracellular and intracellular medium, exterior and interior of the cells, which is presented in two different phases, and potential difference may occur between two different phases across the cell membrane, and which is governed by phenomenological thermodynamics based on Nernst-Planck's equation. And the last, it's about total organism, or total organism, we mean this is electric fields, electric currents, which is produced by different organs, and it's learned, examined by classical electrodynamics based on Maxwell equation. Maxwell equation it takes into account different properties of different organs, like it can be taken like dielectric and resistance, conductivity, everything must be taken into account. And here the interesting question arises: if our organism is about complex of this composition of these different organs with different properties, like with different parameters like dielectric parameters, conductivity parameters, and how this is electric field and current which is produced by different organs can be distributed within side of us. We mean when they have different parameters like bones, soft tissues, air-filled cavities with different conductivity, with different resistance, can produce electric field and electric current, and how it will be produced. It will be distributed between the given organs. So, and in our future explanations, we'll analyze also these processes. But we prefer starting from the source of this electrical current and electric field. What's the main source? You know, this is electric current and electric field within our body can be produced directly by transportation of these charged particles to transportation of these particles like ionic pump. Indirectly, it can be produced by due to streaming potential, and in some organs, like in bones, it can be produced by piezoelectric effect. And if you if you accurately pay attention to structure mosaic structure of the membrane, you could easily notice that beside the perpendicular distribution of this charged particle with respect to surface of the membrane, also in tangential direction, this is charge will be distributed. To sanctum mosaic structure allow distribution of these charged particles also in tangential direction, and this is fields or currents can be produced during different transportation, as rheogenic, familiar rheogenic pump can produce this electric field, but unfortunately this is field unmeasurable because of the small size of the transporters. It doesn't allow us to detect these signals, these electric fields and electric currents. But if it's about large size, large dimension of these transporters, like it's about calcium transportation, this is transportation could produce, this is a current amount of voltage or current which can be easily measured. And for measurement of this potential difference, microelectrodes is being used, or rotating, vibrating probe technique. Vibrating, it means it can vibrate under several 100 hertz, because this is, if it's about electric current can produce, this is frequency, it can oscillation, vibration of this field, alternating field with some frequency, and this is frequency can be detected. And this is, microelectrode, the top of this microelectrode consists of spherical metallic tools, like it has spherical shape, and it can easily be placed under this external field, and displacement of this part of microelectrode allows us to determine this is field or field potential, which is equal 10 degree -9 voltage. And what's the importance of this pumping? This is electric field can be produced, electric current can be produced by this during this ionic pump, and in some cells, in embryos, for instance, in muscles, in some tissues, it represents direction of the growing, because this is embryos grows precise in this direction, and this is pumping can change, this is direction, and this is growing will be directed toward this pumping. And then the important source of electrical current within human body, or it's about extracellular pumping, it's about wound potential. But wound potential is one of the main sources of the electrical current. It occurs around the epithelium tissue. For example, epithelium of cornea. Epithelium of cornea, during the pumping of sodium and potassium to the interior and chloride to the exterior of this cell. And around this epithelium with the high resistance, like a barrier between the intercellular and extracellular medium, and during this is transportation around this membrane, epithelium may occur wound potential. The number numerically for cornea is equal to 40 millivolt, and as you notice, it decreases from the surfaces. The strength of field decreases depend on distance. And this is wound potential not only occur around the corneal epithelium. It takes place also in mammalian skin between epidermis and outer layer of dermis. And this is wound potential equal to 70 millivolt. And this is field which is created due to this potential. It can reach maximally 140 voltage per meter, and as you notice from the given picture, it diminishes depend on distance beneath the surface of this bond potential. Its maximum and depend on and respect to the distance, it diminishes, it decreases. And the next source of these potentials or currents within human body, it's about propagation of the action potential through the membrane. It occurs thanks to this propagation of this action potential. And the best example can be taken action of the nerve cells, and this is examining of this axon cells. Axon membrane gives us information about this field, about the electric field within the side of this membrane. And what's the mechanism of this processes? If the action potential propagates through the membrane, part of this membrane first of all will be polarized and it will charge positively, where the rest of these parts of this membrane are negative at rest potential. They have the resting potential. Because this is depolarization, it gradually processes, it doesn't occur simultaneously, it takes time. And when the part charged positively, the rest of these membrane parts will be charged negatively. And between positive and negative polarities may occur lateral current, lateral movement of this charged particle. This is another source of electrical current or electrical potential in extracellular medium. And beside this potential, also if you remember, as I mentioned before, during piezoelectric effect also may occur. This is current or potential difference. And what's the main idea and what's the meaning of piezoelectric effect? Piezoelectric effect, it may occur in crystals during the formation of the crystal. This is electric field also can be created by charged particles within these given crystals. And our bones resembles to these crystals and they have the similar behavior properties like crystals. And the movement of the solution within tiny tubes of these bones, within the tiny channels, narrow channels, it's also thanks to this creation of this streaming potential within these bones. During normal condition, if we try to compare this movement of this solution through the tubes and through the bones, it's principal difference. During the movement of these fluids or liquids through the tubes, this is potential pressure difference at the end of the tube may push this liquids through this tube from higher pressure to lower pressure, but it's impossible within this bone. Why? Because here the channel so tiny, so delicate, there is no pressure difference may occur within this bone. Only streaming potential, only during the formation of this collagen within this bone, it leads to creation of this streaming potential. During the loading of bone also it takes place, and this is streaming potential leads to movement. This is liquid, this is solution from one part to another part through the given channels. And this processes is important during the bone growth and during remodeling of these bones in vivo, and also stimulation of these bones, repairing of these bones during the different fractures. It can be taken into account, and ultrasound, it's possible with external regulation adjustment of the ultrasound, with the ultrasound. And if our body, as I mentioned before, this is electric field and electric potential can be created by various organs, by various tissues, and it propagates, it spreads within our body, and it can be the source of information about the lifestyle, about the functioning of the different organs. And the different measurement methods with different sophisticated techniques allows to evaluate this condition. And the first method, which was given by Dutch physiologist William Eindhoven, is based on these processes. And this is the first person who proposed this registering of these signals from 3 different points of our body, and this is Eindhoven was awarded with Nobel Prize. And you know what's the importance? You know, this is field and this is current can be created by various organs, and it can be detected by sophisticated tools like EKG, electrocardiography, electromyography, electroencephalography, and this is the millivoltage is can reach several hundreds millivoltage, can be created, can be detected by different organs. But if we compare electroencephalography with electrocardiography, this is signals weaker comparing with electrocardiography because of protection, because of isolating function of the scalp. Now we try to analyze what's the main idea of the given Eindhoven method. Eindhoven, this is termed like Eindhoven triangle. And the main idea is that the different organs can create this electric signals, and when this electric signal spreads through our tissues, it can excite these tissues. It's able to excite these tissues, either muscle tissues or nerve cells, and detection from these nerve cells or muscle tissues gives us information. And here chosen 3-point was proposed by Eindhoven. This is about right arm, excitation of right arm muscle, excitation of this left arm and left foot. This is corresponding appropriate points from appropriate muscles within the same rhythm with heart, where the heart is located in the center of this bilateral triangle. And this is, you know, this is dipole momentum of this heart. Heart can orientate like oscillating dipole, and this is with dashed lines. It's given a dashed line represents excitation of the different heart muscles, and origin of these vectors is located in cross section of the 3 axes, like this one, where during the excitation, during this is depolarization, arrowhead these vectors rotates along these dashed lines, and which corresponds to different excitation of these different cardiac muscles. But exact correlation between these vectors and the state of different muscles also impossible because of these different properties, heterogeneous dielectric properties of these different organs. It can be exactly done, but the sequence of these points also represents, however, the sequence of these points represents excitation of the different muscles, and the cardiac muscles, we mean, from between 3 different points, 3 different cardiograms can be recorded, can be derived. And the sequence of these points represents different excitation of the different cardiac muscle. For instance, P waves corresponds to excitation of atrius, and QRS corresponds to excitation of atrius, and the repolarization, it represents T wave. Restarting of these processes corresponds to point of T. And if we compare different parts of the given cardiogram, which is taken from the different three parts, and each of them, which is located far or less distance from at a distance from the heart, this is why this is signals. It's huger signals, QRC, comparing with others, because of what? Because excitation of these ventricles requires the bigger power. I want to repeat, P waves corresponds to excitation of atrius, QRS represent excitation of ventricles, and ventricles occupies big area, and excitation or depolarization of these heart ventricles, it requires huge signals, and huge signals also can be recorded. This is about electrocardiography, but completed form of this electrocardiography is termed like vector cardiography. Vector cardiography resembles to electrocardiography, the same principle, same idea, as you notice, the same signal. And what's the principal difference? Principal difference, if here the phase orientation of dipole momentum of the heart is negligible, isn't considered, isn't taken into account, but here phase orientation or changing of orientation in space also is taken into account due to it's called like complete information. During vector cardiography can be registered the complete information about the functioning of the heart. And the next picture, it's about snapshot, it's about electroencephalography, and this is comparing with electro EKG, electrocardiography. This is so complicated. This is signals which is detected, but it's comprehensive issue to detect, to evaluate from which nerve bundles can be detected these kind of signals, but somehow with some approximation it can be verified for different processes, not for exact precise nerve cell, nerve bundles, but different processes. It can be differentiated. For instance, here A, B, C, D for different state of brain. It's represented, for example, A is subject alert, and the B is subject drowsy. This one, C, it's about light sleep. The last one, it's about deep sleep. As you notice, it represents different state of our brain. And during some disorders, because for instance, during seizures, different seizures within brain, also signals can be different. This is in abnormal EKG, which is taken from our brain. And some tumors also can be registered, which is located near the brain scalp, also can be detected, can be registered due to this is electroencephalography. Up to now, we have been studying the active electrical properties of human organism. And this is diagnostics methods are based on registration of these active properties like currents and voltage. But in our next slide, we try to analyze behavior of organs and tissues in terms of passive electrical characteristics, passive electrical parameters or passive electrical terms. If the active properties of the human body, human organism, cells and tissues, it's about active properties, it's about current and voltage. Passive properties, it's about resistance, capacitance, and conductivity. Now we try to analyze these different terms, passive electrical properties. In order to, I want you to pay attention to alternating current circuit, which comprises different elements like resistance, coils, capacitor. And you remember, I believe you remember the function of this each element. Resistance, coil, and capacitor. In alternating current circuit, the total resistance of the given elements can be found by direct summation of these resistances. It requires specific rule like vector summation. And the total resistance of the given alternating current circuit, it's about vector sum of the given resistance. The first one, it's about active resistance. The second one is about inductive resistance or inductance. The third one, it's about capacitive resistance, which occur in capacitor, or it's termed like capacitive resistance or capacitance. This is vector sum gives us the total resistance. And what's the meaning of each resistances? Like R capital R X sub L X sub C. R, where the active resistance is termed also like ohmic resistance, which is closely associated with resistivity, with length of the given conductor and area. And resistivity, it's related to structure, inherently atomic structure of the given material, and it's equal to resistance when we are taking unit dimension of length and unit of area. If it's about 1 meter square area section of the conductor, 1 meter square area section of conductor with 1 meter length of wire, this is the resistivity of this cable will be equal to the resistance. And what about the inductance or inductivity resistance, which occur within coil? It's also product of omega cyclic frequency of alternating current and inductivity. Inductivity also it's closely associated with material, with structure of the given material. And the last one, the resistance, which occur within capacitor, and it's inversely proportional with omega frequency of cyclic frequency of the alternating current and capacitance. If you compare both, if it's about coil, resistance of coil, it's directly proportional with omega and L, but resistance of capacitor, it's inversely proportional, it diminishes with increasing of omega and C. And if we try to apply this resistance to our organism, the question arises, what kind of resistances among the presented resistances we have in our body? We have all of them or some of them in our body, and it is found that we have ohmic resistance and we have capacitive resistance. From presented resistances, we have only two, active and capacitive. And active, why we have this is active resistance or omega resistance? Because all part of our organism has resistivity, area section, length. It can be about muscles, about soft tissues, about all part of our body which comprises this active resistance. But what about capacitive resistance? If you remember from our previous lesson, from our last lecture, it also located in our body in membrane, because if we try to understand extracellular and intracellular medium of the cell, like high resistance barrier membrane allows us to understand the capacitive resistance, because within inside of the cell membrane and outside of the cell membrane is charged differently. Extracellular, intracellular mediums with different charge, and it's isolated with cell membrane. This is also about our organism, and we have capacitive resistance also within our membrane. But what about the inductance or inductivity resistance? We don't have any structure resembling to coil in our body, and yet we don't have this is resistance in our organism. We don't have any inductance, inductive resistance in our body. And the next slide, it's about combination of this resistance. And if we have two of these chosen resistances, like active and capacitive resistance, how they are combined with each other within our body. This is the interesting questions, and different models were given due to explanation of the given situation. The first model is about seriously combination of capacitor with resistance, and this is model, as you notice, where the total resistance, the other name of this total resistance, it's about impedance. Impedance also, it gives us information about the measurement of the quantity, also gives us information about the functioning of our organs. And if it's about series combination, it should be taken like this one. Total resistance will be summation. But the problem arises if you pay attention to the depicted pictures. You can easily notice at a lower region of this frequency, the impedance or total resistance becomes infinity high. This is lower region of frequency. When it approaches to zero, it should be infinity. Total resistance should be infinity due to this combination. But in reality, we don't have this infinity resistance. Our resistance of our body, our organism, our cells and tissues is severely limited, but it has precise number. But due to this model, it should be infinity higher, and it doesn't correspond to our body. This model wasn't proved and isn't corresponding to our body. And the next proposed model, it's about parallel combination of this capacitor with resistance, and this is about the second formula. And as you notice, this is during the parallel combination. If we pay attention to a given picture, at the higher, and it doesn't correspond to our resistance of our body, at the higher region of this omega. Why? At the higher, it's correct for lower region of frequency, because at the lower value of frequency it has precise number. But what about the higher region of the omega? And as you notice, it approached to zero. Increasing of omega leads to approaching of this total resistance to 0, but it's not real. It also doesn't correspond to our body, because never organism resistance or impedance of our cells, our tissues, can be 0. And the final proposed model, it's about parallel combination of these two resistances with series combination with capacitor, and the total resistance will be found if omega approach to 0. It can be found by this formula. It is correct either for higher region of omega or or for lower region of the omega. Why? For higher, as we notice, it has precise value, but at lower it has precise value, but for the higher value of the omega, it doesn't approach to 0. It isn't 0. It has precise value. It's thanks to parallel combination of these resistances. And the measurement of this total resistance with respect to the omega during measurement of this total resistance during one heart cycling of heart, during one heartbeat, it's about the rheography. Rheography, it's a measurement of total resistance or impedance of the organism tissues during one heart cycle. And the next graph, it's about changing of the resistance or impedance with respect to the omega for living tissue, as you see, like this one, which corresponds to the last slide. And for that tissue, it doesn't depend on frequency. It's constant, doesn't depend on frequency. But here in the next slide, also for dead tissue, it's parallel to horizontal axis. And for damaged tissue, it's the second one represent damaged tissue, and the first one represent the health living tissues. This is about the rheography. And here we understand capacitance, which is described in our next slide. The meaning of capacitance, active resistance, and other resistances is given in our slides. Like we could verify these passive properties like resistance, like conductivity and capacitance. 3 passive properties of human tissue. And this is conductivity, also closely associated with area of the given material and with size or thickness and with specific conductivity. And capacitance also is related to area and distance between the plates, and also dielectric permittivity. Dielectric permittivity with respect to space, and dielectric constant, and it's represented with given dimension, with given numbers. And the complex specific admittance, which is related to conductivity. Conductivity and resistance inversely proportional with each other. And here is complex specific admittance, which is related to conductivity. The represented both values are complex. Why complex? Because both of these relations involves imaginary number. On the picture, it's depicted dependency of each quantities, like complex specific admittance and complex dielectric constant, depend on frequency. But as you notice, as you accurately pay attention, this is two graphs contradict to each other, which is given for different cells, for different tissues, contradict to each other. Because if for admittance, for complex admittance, it increases with frequency, but for the contrast to the previous one, for the dielectric constant, it decreases. And this is behavior, and this is property, this is passive property, is crucial for transplantation of the internal organs. And the next slide, it's about dispersion of dielectric constant. It also can be written in terms of impedance, and it means this is dispersion behavior of the given structure in different frequency regions will be different. And for instance, this is for dielectric constant, it can be subdivided into three parts, like alpha, beta, and gamma dispersion, and all of them has stepwise fashion. This is processes steppier for each dispersion. For example, for alpha dispersion, which occur in lower region of frequency, lower region, we mean the approximately 10 power 4 hertz, and it's about the formation of ionic clouds within membrane. But detection and measurement of this kind of processes almost is impossible due to polarity of the microelectrodes. Polarization doesn't allow us to detect this is dispersion, alpha dispersion. And beta dispersion, it's termed like Maxwell-Wagner dispersion. It's about inhomogeneous behavior of intracellular medium and organelles. It can be shared, subdivided, or also into types. Beta 1, it's about dispersion of membrane, and beta 2, it's about dispersion of the cytoplasm. And gamma dispersion, like Debye dispersion, in the highest region, at the highest region of frequency, it's about changing of orientation of dipoles or dipole molecules, behavior of dipole molecules. And what's the importance in studying of this dispersion when this is tissues, this is organ, interacts with external electromagnetic field? The behavior of these constitutions or compartments will be differently. For example, different parts is sensitive for different external field, and water, free water, is sensitive for 18.7 gigahertz. For bound water, it's 1 gigahertz. It means this is behavior, this is orientation, changing of orientation, or this is dispersion of the given molecules. Either water, free water, or bound water is differentiated by 19 times. And what's important? It gives us information about the function, and it's crucial for transplantation of the organ. This is all this method we have been studying, we have been taking up to now. It was about the passive and active properties of cells, organisms, all extracellular medium. And the next slide, it's about treatment processes, electric field widely being used for treatment purposes as a part of the physiotherapy method. First of all, I prefer starting from DC, direct current treatment, or one type is about galvanization. Galvanization, it's about using of electrodes and sending of some portion of milliamperes, like 1 second milliamperes or 1/10 portion of this milliampere can be sent in order to accelerate, in order to excitation of these cells, in order to improvement of different metabolism. This is current is being sent through our skin. And Resistance of skin also must be taken into account, because distribution of this electric field, first of all, it's distributed through our skin. It enters to our body through our skin. Due to conductivity, resistance, structure must be taken into account. And one important thing here during this galvanization method, this is lead. This is electrodes made from lead. Why lead? Because this is lead. They has the lowest mobility. Mobility of these ions is lower. Mobility lower. What does it mean? It means it doesn't enter with the current through our skin. It doesn't leave the given material, given electrodes. And here also important thing, wetted hydrophile textile must be used. Why this is it's required? This is hydrophile textile because of water and salt within our skin. You know, there are some sodium chloride and water molecules in our in our skin, located within our skin. But when the electric current passes through this system, it can be realized different combination, because this is sodium chloride can be easily dissociated into positive sodium and negative chloride. Water can be dissociated into positive hydrogen and negative hydroxide. And the negative hydroxide can easily, under electric field, can easily combine with them. This sodium and this is chloride can easily combine with positive hydrogen, and alkaline medium will be created by the given constitution, and which can easily burn our skin. In order to prevent this burning of our skin, we need covering our skin or put something under the this is electrodes. We mean something, we mean this is hydrophile textile. Wetted hydrophile textile must be used under the given electrodes. This is about the treatment of DC with DC, like galvanization method. The other method is about electrophoresis method. Electrophoresis method, it's about movement of the charged ions under the electrostatic field force, and we need electric field in order to send different ions to our body. And you know, we know you're also familiar with different methods why we can treat our patient with swelling of drugs, with injection. And what's the advantage, what the privilege of the given electrophoresis method? This is using electrodes. It utilizes electrodes in order to send this is drug solution. Drugs must be taken in solution form, and within this solution is being put one electrode, other electrode will be put to our body. For instance, if our solution comprises calcium ions and we are interested in inserting of these calcium ions and entering of these calcium ions to our arm, when our arm it feels shortage of this calcium, and we need movement of this calcium from this solution into our arm. It also requires electrode. 2 electrodes are being used. One of them will be put within this solution, other one will be put on our arm, and which is put into this solution, it will be charged positively, similar to calcium. Calcium also 2 positive, you know, and it will be also positively charged. Why positively? Why the same charge? Because due to repelling of this calcium through these electrodes, repulsive force must repel. This is calcium from these electrodes, from this solution, and this is other electrodes which is put in our arm. It must be charged negatively in order to lure, in order to attract this calcium. It requires negative charge. Then this is calcium will easily move from this solution towards our arm. And the advantage of this method, if we during swelling of these drugs or injection, it requires days, and some negative effects will be obtained. For example, our stomach, our intestines will be damaged by these drugs, side effects will be obtained. But during this electrophoresis method, this is ions, this is drug solutions without any other damage can immediately reach to a point of interest during the short time. This is privilege of the given treatment method. And there are different types and during the different disorders it can be used. And the different types, for example, ionophoresis, if it's about movement of precise ion, it's kind of like ionophoresis, and during different processes, during releasing of pain, inflammation as presented, and different processes, disorders, it can be easily managed, this situation. And generally our body is sensitive to several microampere of the current. For example, 500 microampere it can be felt by our body. Increasing this currents may impact in our body, and it can release different pains, for example, different disorders in our body. For instance, if it's about 5 milliampere, we will feel pain, and if it increases till to 10 milliampere, and it will causes this is defibrillation and tetanization of this muscle. Tetanization, it means fibrillation or desynchronization of the functioning of the muscles. For example, if it's about heart muscles, during the sending of this some portion of the milliamperes, it will be danger for our heart. For example, even this is smaller value of the given current is more danger than the big number of the given value. If we can compare 1 milliampere with 10 milliampere, 1 milliampere is more danger than the 10 milliampere. And what causes this? Because of if we send 1 milliampere will tetanize part of our body. Part of our body will be tetanized with this current with 1 milliampere, and desynchronization of these other muscles will occur because one part is fibrillate, fibrillation may occur, and it means desynchronization, because this is impact of milliampere, only one part will be obtained, other part isn't be affected by this current, and desynchronization will occur. But if it's about larger current, like 10 milliampere, this is 10 milliampere, can cover all area of this muscle, and it wouldn't be any fibrillation or desynchronization of the working of the heart muscles. Tetanizing effect of pulsing current is widely being used in medicine, and due to we use defibrillators. Defibrillators we use when the patient suffers from the heart problems. Heart problems may occur during heart attack or after the heart surgery, and defibrillation may occur. Desynchronization may occur within our heart. It means fibrillation. It means a desynchronization of heart working of the heart muscles, but these processes can be recovered by the defibrillators. It's a capacitor which combined with 2 electrodes and which is sent tetanizing pulsing current, and the voltage of the given tool it's about 6000 voltage, and energy is 200 joule, and this is a tetanizing current is sent, and this is electrodes first of all put around the heart as depicted in our snapshot, and this is if the current sent during 5 milliseconds. Fibrillation may occur. Fibrillation, on the other hand, the stopping of working of heart for a moment, for 5 milliseconds. After it can be easily recovered functioning of heart, or synchronization will be fully covered after several repetitions of these processes. And the other important crucial factor due to functioning of our heart, it's about pacemaker fibers, bundle of these pacemaker fibers. This is bundle of these fibers which control, adjust timing of heartbeat or rhythm of the heartbeat. But if something happens with these pacemakers, for example, if it ceases to function, then pacemaker implants can be installed, and it can adjust or regulate instead of these pacemaker this is fibers. And if our patient suffers from both disorder, irregularities of the heart beating and desynchronization of heart working, then this is implant which is combination of both. This is pacemaker and the previous one, defibrillator. This is combination of both tools implanted into our chest of our patient, which is called implantable defibrillator, cardioverter defibrillator. This tool can recover both processes. And the next, it's about stimulation within nerve tissue with pulsing current. It's about electroconvulsive therapy. Electroconvulsive therapy is important, crucial for severe depression and for catatonia. It can completely recover these disorders. And the next is about vagus nerve. Vagus nerve, this is so important part of our body. It's what's the function of this nerve? This is a nerve. It emanates from brain and it splits into branch within our chest and cover all our internal organs till the down column. It connects our brain with our all internal organs. From some internal organs, it takes this information directly, like from our lungs, from our digestion system, from our intestines, it takes directly. But from our liver and from pancreas, it takes indirectly. This is signals. And during these disorders, which is related to vagus nerve, this is implants like a pulse generator is being used, which regulates functioning of this vagus nerve. It can regulate blood pressure, sugar level, breathing. Various verified processes can be regulated by this pulse generator. And also based on latest publishing dates, it also can regulate some epileptic seizure, as well drug-resistant disorders. Some different processes can be adjusted due to this is implanted, installed, pulse generated. And also migraine, but for migraine, not this is implant from external electric field. It will be regulated. Our vagus nerve will be regulated. And this is implants is used for autoimmune disease. It covers the wide range of the disease which is closely associated with our internal organs. Our lecture is over, and further reading is represented in our next slide. And if you need my guidance about these slides and about my explanation, you may ask by my WhatsApp and represented mail address. Thank you for watching.